There was a boy named Caleb. He was 20 years old. He lived in a small fishing village on the edge of Louisiana's wetlands, the kind of place where the water was everywhere, where the air smelled like salt and mud and something ancient, where the sun set so slow and so red that it looked like the whole sky was bleeding into the Gulf. His father had fished these waters for 40 years. His grandfather before him, and his grandfather's father before that. The water was not just their livelihood, it was their identity, their history, their home. But the home was disappearing. Every year the land shrank a little more. The marshes were sinking. The water was creeping closer to the houses. Trees that used to stand tall in the wetlands were now dead stumps poking out of brown water. 3 families had already packed up and left. 2 more were talking about leaving before winter. The old men sat on the docks in the evenings and shook their heads. Nothing to be done. This land is dying, has been dying for years. You cannot stop the water. Caleb listened, but he did not accept it. He had found something, an old research paper he stumbled across one night on the library computer. It talked about marsh grass, a specific kind that grew roots so deep and so tangled that it could hold wet soil together, stop erosion, rebuild what the water had taken. Scientists had used it in other places. It had worked. He printed the paper. He read it 4 times. He folded it and put it in his shirt pocket and kept it close, like a secret he was not ready to share, because he already knew what people would say. He told his father first, one evening after dinner. His father was cleaning a fishing net on the back porch. Caleb laid the paper on the table beside him. His father read it slowly. Then he set it down. He picked up the net again and kept working. Boy, scientists and fishermen are different kinds of people. What works in a lab does not always work in a swamp. Caleb said, "It worked in Georgia. It worked in the Carolinas." His father was quiet for a long time. Then he said, "Even if it works, you cannot plant enough grass to save this whole marsh alone. It would take years." Caleb folded the paper back up and put it in his pocket. "I know," he said, "but somebody has to start." He told a few others in the village. The responses were what he expected. Old Mr. Thibodeau laughed out loud. His cousin Marcus said it was a waste of time. Even his friend Danny, who usually supported everything Caleb did, just looked at the ground and said nothing. So Caleb stopped telling people. He ordered the grass seeds with money he had saved from 3 summers of work. He did not tell his mother what he spent it on. He just said he had a project. The first morning he went out alone before sunrise. The sky was still dark purple over the water. The air was thick and warm. He waded into the shallows at the edge of the marsh, where the soil was soft and the erosion was worst. His boots sank with every step. The mud smelled like the earth's oldest secret. He planted his first bundle of grass in the dark. Nobody saw. Nobody cheered. The marsh did not change. The water did not recede. The village kept sleeping. But Caleb drove a small wooden stake into the mud beside the planting spot. He tied a piece of orange twine around it so he would know exactly where he had started. He went back the next morning and the morning after that. Every day before the rest of the village woke, Caleb was already in the water, planting, moving along the edge of the marsh, bundle by bundle, row by row. The work was hard. The mud fought him every step. Some mornings the water was higher than usual and covered spots he had already planted. Some mornings he found that the current had torn out the bundles he had set the day before. He would replant them, then move on. His back ached, his hands blistered and then hardened. His boots rotted from the constant wet, and he bought new ones. Weeks passed. 2 months in, his mother asked him what he was doing every morning before breakfast. He told her. She stood at the kitchen sink for a long moment without turning around. Then she said quietly, "Your grandfather tried something like that once. Tried to redirect a water channel by hand. People said he was crazy." "Did it work?" Caleb asked. She turned around. Her eyes were soft. "Took him 3 years, but yes, it worked." That was all she said, but it was enough. He kept going. 3 months after he planted his first bundle, he went to his orange twine marker at sunrise. He looked at the soil around it. The grass was holding, not just surviving, holding. The roots had gone deep. The mud around the plants was denser, more packed, less loose. He crouched down and pressed his hand into the earth beside the grass. It pushed back. It had resistance now. He stood up in the middle of the marsh with the sun just coming over the water, and his heart beating so hard he could feel it in his throat. It was working. He did not run to the village. He did not make an announcement. He just stood there for a while in the quiet morning water, with the birds starting to call in the cypress trees and the sky turning from pink to gold. He let the moment be private, let it belong to just him and the marsh and the work that nobody had seen. Then he went home and ate breakfast. He kept planting. His area expanded. The orange twine markers multiplied along the edge of the marsh like a quiet map of everything he had done alone. Then, one Saturday morning, his cousin Marcus came down to the dock early. He was going out to check his crab traps. He saw Caleb wading in the shallows. "What are you doing out there?" Caleb told him.
Marcus was quiet. Then he said, "Does it actually work?" Caleb pointed to the first marker, the one he had put in 3 months ago. Marcus waded out. He pressed his hand into the soil the same way Caleb had. He felt the resistance. He stood up and looked at Caleb with a different expression than he had worn the last time they talked about this. "Show me how," he said. The next morning, Marcus came back, and he brought Danny. The morning after that, Danny brought his younger brother. Within 2 weeks, there were 8 people planting grass in the marsh before sunrise. Nobody organized it. Nobody called a meeting. It just happened the way real things happen, quietly, naturally, because the results were visible to anyone willing to look. Old Mr. Thibodeau came down one morning just to watch. He stood on the bank with his coffee and said nothing for a long time. Then he set down his cup and took off his jacket and waded in without a word. Caleb looked at him. Mr. Thibodeau just shrugged. "I have been watching this land shrink my whole life. If there is a chance, I want to be part of it." By the end of that summer, nearly the whole village was involved. People who had been talking about leaving started talking about staying. The section of marsh where Caleb had started was visibly more stable. The soil testers from the university who came out in September confirmed what everyone could already feel. The erosion in that area had slowed significantly. The grass was doing what the paper had said it would do. It would take years, everyone knew that. The whole marsh would not be saved in a single season, but the direction had changed. And direction is everything. Caleb's father came out to the marsh on a cool October evening. He walked along the bank looking at the orange twine markers stretching far in both directions. He looked at the grass. He looked at his son.
He did not say much. He was not a man of many words, but he put his hand on Caleb's shoulder and kept it there for a moment longer than usual. That was enough. What Caleb learned could not be put in any research paper. He learned that the people who laughed the loudest at the beginning are often the ones standing beside you at the end, not because they changed their minds on their own, but because you gave them something real to change their minds about. He learned that a village does not move together until one person moves first, and that first person is always alone for a while. Always. That loneliness is not a sign that you are wrong, it is a sign that you are early. He learned that nature rewards patience the same way it rewards rain, slowly, quietly, without announcement, and then all at once. And he learned that you do not save something big by doing something big. You save it by doing something small, every single morning before the rest of the world wakes up. Now I want to speak to you. You are looking at something in your life that is shrinking. Maybe it is a relationship. Maybe it is your health. Maybe it is a dream you have been watching erode for years. Maybe it is something in your community that everyone else has accepted as lost. And maybe people around you have already said there is nothing to be done. Do not believe them. Not because they are bad people, but because they have not planted their first bundle yet. They do not know what the soil feels like when it starts to hold. You do, or you will if you start. Go out tomorrow morning before anyone else is awake. Do the one small thing. Plant the one seed. Take the one step that nobody will see and nobody will cheer for. Do it again the next morning and the next. The marsh does not recover in a day, but it does recover for those who show up every morning with their hands in the mud and their hearts still believing. Your land is worth saving. Start before sunrise. If this story moved something in you, if Caleb's marsh reminded you of something you have been watching slowly disappear, please like this video. Subscribe to our channel. Every week, we bring you stories about ordinary people who refuse to give up on something worth fighting for. Hit the bell icon so you never miss one. And if someone in your life is standing on the bank watching something they love slowly sink, share this with them today. Sometimes one story is all it takes to make someone wade in. Thank you for watching. Now go. The marsh is waiting, and so is the person you are meant to become.